Welcome to Podkey Slotcast, where token leaderboards, agentic AI, and Orbital servers all collide. A company rewarding people for burning through AI tokens sounds absurd right up until you ask what they're really trying to buy. And once you do that, the same question starts showing up everywhere, from legal agents to Android assistants to the idea of putting compute in orbit. The headline claim is that companies like Meta, Disney, and Visa have internal leaderboards rewarding employees for the highest token consumption. Taken literally, that sounds like a corporate contest for who can waste the most compute. That criticism is real and it's not crazy. But the stronger interpretation is that token burn is being used as a rough R&D signal. Somebody inside the company is saying, we want people pushing these systems hard enough to discover useful workflows before there are neat ROI dashboards to prove it. The source material even points to around 1 billion tokens used with little immediate profit. On its face, that's ugly. In an experimentation phase, it can also be normal. Early infrastructure shifts often look inefficient before they look indispensable. The problem is that a good exploratory budget and a vanity metric can look identical from the outside. Visible token spending behavior does tell you something useful. It reveals incentive design. It also surfaces experimentation that would otherwise stay hidden in private chats and side projects. That visibility can help leaders spot promising uses. It can also reward theatre, because once employees know they're being watched on one number, some of them will optimize that number. This is where Goodhart's law matters. Once token consumption becomes the target, it stops being a reliable measure of value. People can game it by running oversized prompts, unnecessary loops, or flashy demos that consume a lot and teach very little. But that doesn't prove AI work itself is fake or unproductive. It proves the incentive design may be sloppy. That's an important distinction, because a lot of public discussion skips straight from one embarrassing metric to a sweeping conclusion about the whole field. There's also a selection bias problem. The stories that travel are the weirdest ones, the leaderboard screenshots, the token flexing, the eye-popping spend. Outliers get amplified because they're legible and dramatic. Quiet, productive AI use inside a large organization usually doesn't become a meme. So the safer conclusion is narrower. Extreme anecdotes show that some firms are using crude proxies during a messy adoption phase. They do not by themselves show that most token consumption is pointless. If anything, the evidence supports two truths at once. There is real waste, and there is also real learning hidden inside apparently wasteful experimentation. The deeper shift underneath all this is the move from assisted AI to agentic AI. In the assisted model, a human uses AI as a tool. In the agentic model, the human sets goals and constraints, and autonomous agents do multi-step work. That changes what competence looks like. The job stops being pure production and starts becoming orchestration. If that's right, then counting chats or prompts becomes less meaningful. The more relevant question is what the agents actually accomplished, with what reliability, cost, and need for oversight. The KPMG and University of Texas study matters here. Across 1.4 million workplace AI interactions, top performers treated AI more like a reasoning partner than a prompt vending machine. And the key implication is not just that some people are better at this, it's that those collaborative behaviors can be taught at scale. That supports the case for spending upfront on tokens and engineering, because building reliable agents usually takes iteration, failed attempts, and a lot of orchestration work before the system earns trust. Still, the trade-off is real. If companies celebrate usage before they can measure outcomes, they may build a culture that's great at demos and weak at durable process change. Google's Gemini intelligence announcement fits that broader transition almost perfectly. On paper, this is an agentic suite for Android that expands Gemini's multi-step abilities and adds a personal intelligence memory layer. The strategic point isn't just a better phone assistant, it's Google's attempt to make agent behavior persistent across devices, contexts, and input modes. The new hardware story matters too, from the Google Book Chromebook to planned smartwatch, glasses and laptop integrations, all leaning into more natural gestures and multimodal interaction.
That sounds convenient, but it raises practical questions. Memory systems are only useful if they're accurate, permissioned correctly, and not so intrusive that people stop trusting them.
And device integration can deepen lock-in. The more seamless the assistant becomes, the harder it is to separate genuine user value from platform strategy. None of that means the product direction is wrong. It means the industry is clearly betting that the winning assistant won't just answer questions. It'll act across hardware, remember context, and handle tasks with less explicit prompting. Anthropic's legal expansion shows what agentic AI looks like when it leaves the general demo stage and enters a regulated workflow. The company added connectors to tools like DocuSign and Thomson Reuters, integrations with Harvey, and a dozen pre-built agents for different practice areas. That matters because adoption friction is often less about model quality than workflow fit. A very smart model that can't touch the systems lawyers already use is still a weak product. Anthropic also says lawyers are now the most frequent users of its cloud platform after software engineers. If that holds up, it's a strong signal of vertical traction. Legal work is a useful test case because the standards are higher. Accuracy, auditability, and document handling aren't optional extras there. So when pre-built agents and connectors gain ground in legal, the lesson isn't just that law firms like AI, it's that packaging and operational integration may be as important as frontier model performance. The caveat is obvious. High usage doesn't automatically mean high-quality outcomes. In regulated work, bad automation can scale mistakes very efficiently.
Then there's the wildest-sounding item, reported talks involving Google, SpaceX, and other launch providers about putting data centers in orbit.
The stated logic is to bypass terrestrial land-permitting constraints, and there are side signals of momentum, including a startup raising around $2 billion and an NVIDIA job posting for an orbital data center architect.
This is exactly the kind of story that attracts hype, so it's worth separating signal from spectacle.
The signal is that AI infrastructure demand is forcing companies to consider options that would have sounded fringe not long ago. Regulation, power, land, and geography are real bottlenecks. The spectacle is the temptation to treat orbital compute as an imminent fix. The source material says explored, reportedly in talks, and growing momentum. That's a long way from commercially proven infrastructure. Even if space-based compute becomes viable for some uses, second-order questions pile up fast. Launch economics, maintenance, latency trade-offs, failure modes, and whether escaping one bottleneck just creates 3 new ones. So the strongest reading isn't that data centers are leaving Earth tomorrow. It's that AI demand is now intense enough to pull previously implausible infrastructure ideas into serious conversation. The through line here is pretty simple. When a technology is still being operationalized, the loudest metric is often the least trustworthy one. What's worth watching is where experimentation turns into repeatable systems, whether that's token budgets, legal agents, device assistants, or infrastructure moonshots.
This is Podkey Slopcast. More next time.
This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.